Hello and welcome to The Climb, the Leadership Development and Confident Leader podcast. I have been talking so much about talented people lately who feel that they are doing everything right, but somehow things are not working in their favor. They are working hard, they're staying loyal, following the rules of the game, but still they are not getting where they should be. And it's like the old guidebook that has been given to many of us. We have been following that. But unfortunately, the guidebook that we have been following for the game is now changed. It's a different ball game altogether. So today we are going to stop guessing and start looking at what actually changing in the world of work really means and how you can take control of your own career. I'm joined here by Sam, the creator of Work Rewritten. Sam spent years studying why our job feels so fragile lately. She realized it's not because we aren't trying hard enough, it's because rules of the game changed while we were busy playing. Sam doesn't just give you positive thinking, she gives you the actual tools and clear thinking you need to make those big decisions without feeling like you are constantly on the edge of burnout. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sam Alvita to our show. Sam, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, the topic that you have researched so much is definitely very, very pertinent to today's workforce. And before we do a deep dive on that topic, Sam, I would want you to share about your leadership journey, what kind of mindset shift you had to go through to become the person you are today. Enlighten us, please.
Yes, absolutely. So, like you said, I am the founder of Work Rewritten, and that journey has been a very long one. I started in the more traditional education space and have slowly been merging that into many different initiatives, ranging from coaching to more creative media. I also work very closely with the company Masterclass, so do a lot of creative work for them. And I think one thing about my career is it's been very nonlinear and that's been phenomenal for my specific line of work because I've been able to study this particular problem from many different modes, ranging from, again, that very traditional education model at the beginning, all the way through executive coaching and psychology and behavioral science, and then creating content that actually changes people's behavior later on. And that is how Work Rewritten came to be. I saw that there were very few resources that were affordable and accessible and accurate for the time that we are living in now. So a lot of the career coaching is very dated, and we wanted to make something that is modern and relevant and really catering to the moment. And that is how the company came to be. So that is where I'm at now.
Wow. And what kind of challenges you saw as you were building this, as you were focusing on your company, because you were really disrupting the way the things were being done. Were there any obstacles you faced? What kind of mindset shift you had to go through to become the person you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say one really big one that I started seeing probably 3 to 4 years ago that will be very relevant to our conversation today is the concept of a career ladder. And so I think even when I was in university, it was told to me like, you get this particular major, you climb up the ranks from this point all the way up through, could be anything, right? CEO maybe
Yeah.
at some point. And then you retire. And this major is supposed to hold. You can do this exact set of steps. You make a really good resume. You get your internships, your early jobs. You be as competitive as possible. And that should carry you, right? You should be fine. And that largely is becoming less and less true today. So many people are being laid off. The industries are changing. Skills have very short lifespans. So everyone needs to keep reskilling. And that's all fine. We can adjust to all of that. But I would say the career coaching resources are still very much catered to that model and how students are told to approach their university degrees, their early careers, their mid-level careers. It's all still very much aligned with the career ladder model. And that is very problematic, in my opinion.
No, I hear you. If we do not change the way the industry is changing, it will definitely be very, very challenging for people who are coming out from college. And on that note, I also have observed, Sam, that many leaders, as you rightly mentioned about how they are being taught, that you start here, then you move to that end goal of maybe probably a CEO. Many leaders I'm seeing, they are chasing the next title as a way to prove their worth. In your experience of working with so many individuals, why is external validation is a leaky bucket for confidence? And how do we begin the shift to an internal narrative of authority rather than focusing on an external one?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I think it very directly relates to the latter we were just talking about, where I think conversations around titles get oversimplified in some ways. Because as many of us know, especially at the executive level, titles control access. So they determine who gets resources, who gets to make decisions, whose voice is carrying weight in various rooms. And that is all very much still true. But I think when the problem starts to show up is when people start using title as the only signal of authority. And I think that's the exact leaky bucket that you're talking about. So if their sense of capability depends only on that next promotion, they're very much stuck waiting for permission. And especially if the ladder model is breaking and potentially there isn't that next rung on the ladder, or it's delayed or spread out over longer periods of time, that leaky bucket will get more and more leaky because they're going to be waiting and waiting for promotion. So I think as work is changing too quickly, technology is shifting, industry is evolving, that we need new mental models to think about our own capabilities, where we get our value and our authority from and our access from, frankly. And usually what I tell my executive clients is to shift from this capability building as it directly pertains to titles and anchor it more on capability and adaptability. So, do you know what types of problems you can solve? Do you know how well you can adapt and keep learning as the environment changes? Are you the type of person who can lead into an extremely different era than the one we may be living in now? And that is much more of a source of confidence for most of my clients, because it's like, okay, I'm an extremely adaptable person and I'm ready to be that type of leader. That often is much more important than like, I'm the director or the senior director, whatever.
I think very well said, because many people that I interact with, and this is a very unfortunate, they do not know who they really are, because they have been conditioned to do certain things in certain way. And yes, they have been getting success and they just think that, okay, that is what their personality is. But as you rightly mentioned, it's so important for us to know what our capabilities are, what we are good at, from where we get those value system that we are using in our day-to-day life, and very important to really navigate that next steps of our career. So thank you for bringing that point. So listeners, if you do not know who you are and what your strengths are, take an assessment. There are plenty of assessments available online, but more importantly, talk to someone who is your well-wisher. They will be able to tell you what you are good at and where you need to improve. My next piece, Sam, when I was doing my research on your work, I learned about something called trial map method that you have been using to navigate leaders from whatever situation they are to coming to a proper solution. Would you mind us walking through this model that will allow people to really identify their internal stories and know what is blocking them from becoming that true leader that they are destined to be?
Yes, absolutely. So I came up with the trail map method years ago in my coaching practice. And what the purpose of it is it's in contrast to our traditional roadmap. So again, roadmap being, here's my 5-year plan. I've started in this particular area. I'm going to advance up this, similar to the ladder, right? Like advance in this very predictable way to this end destination if everything goes well. And again, careers don't move in single paths anymore. And same with leadership capabilities in general, right? So you may enter an organization leading a particular team through a particular function, and then that quickly changes into something completely different. And that's been very, very common for leaders today. So how we map careers instead of this roadmap is we assume that there is going to be a general level of unpredictability. And instead of mapping one road or path, as we call it in this, we want to lay out several different paths forward. So at a very basic level, the direct path would be something like, if everything goes according to plan, this is what my career will look like. This is how I need to grow. This is what I need to do. And then we deviate more and more from that. So say we have a bridge path, and a bridge path would be one that you take your same skill set, but maybe you're applying it in a different way with different technology. And there's many different types of paths, but ideally you'll have at least 6 or 7 versions of your role, your work, your life mapped forward. And there's a lot of different ways you can test those, use those to make better decisions. And I think what this really frees people up to do is, instead of waiting for other people to help them feel certain, to force something in this more traditional way, to feel like something's not working, even though they've done everything right, it gives them a lot of different options to test different directions and be like, oh, there's always a way forward. It just might not be the most traditional or the one I expected it to be. So it increases certainty. It helps people think about many different futures for themselves and move forward with a lot more confidence.
I think that's a very unique way of suggesting to people on what kind of different career paths they can have. And as you were explaining this method, I was just rewinding my own career. And my career was also not as straightforward. I mean, there were things that I started with, then pivoted to something else, then something else. And across the journey, what helped me was not anything external. It was more about me gaining that confidence, either by talking to the mentors, talking to the senior peers, or self-learning. Because whenever you are pivoting, it's a new territory for you. You have never done it before. But yes, your leaders have that confidence in you, or you shown that confidence to your leaders, because of which you got that opportunity. So I think as a listener of this episode, if you are having just one path, I think you need to think about how you can utilize this method that Sam just explained. It's very, very unique one. So thank you for sharing. And is that something available on your website as well, Sam?
Yes, absolutely. If you want more information about that and all the
Got it.
different paths and how to map it, you can go to my website and find that info.
All right. We will include in our show notes Sam's website, so you can really go do a deeper dive on this method. So thank you. So people, sometimes they do not have a defined career. And I want to change gears, focus on the women leaders. I want to understand from your perspective that why so many women leaders today, they feel like imposters, even after reaching that milestone, that pinnacle of success. Is it possible to truly lead with confidence if your internal script hasn't been updated so much to your external reality? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the term imposter syndrome or feeling like imposter syndrome is a really tricky one, because it places the burden more on the individual. And I think it's very common for women and men, frankly, anyone stepping into a brand new leadership role, to feel a degree of lack of confidence or feel like they need to learn something. Frankly, I think it's sometimes a very good sign for leaders to feel like, oh, I need to learn, or I need to do something else to really rise to the occasion of this new position I've been given. So I don't think that's a problem. What I want to be clear about, though, for many women, there are so many women that are extremely capable leaders, and many of the women I work with are those extremely capable leaders. And the way they define their imposter syndrome is less that they feel like frauds in their role or imposters in their role, and it's much more that they're operating in environments where the rules of advancement might not be clear, or where leadership expectations are shifting. And so it's understanding and updating their internal model of how authority actually works, and knowing that they can bring their full selves and their full capabilities into that space, even if it doesn't perfectly match that model of authority that they may have been taught in the past. So it's less about convincing them that they belong, I think it comes from evidence. And again, the more they take action, run projects, make decisions, all the things, and see the impact of their work, the more that confidence will update naturally. So I think confidence for many of the women I work with isn't necessarily always a starting point. And that's completely okay. And we always talk about that. It'll be the byproduct of that momentum. So I think it's very, very possible for them to be phenomenal leaders and still feel some of that self-doubt, and just know that the more they do it, the more momentum they get, the better they'll feel moving forward, and not to worry about it if it is something that is coming up for them.
Sure. So what I'm listening is that self-doubt or imposter syndrome is normal. And I was explaining to my son this weekend, we were in Richmond, Virginia. It's a 2-hour drive from my place for a travel tournament. And just before the game, my son said that I'm feeling nervous. And I was telling him that I'm hearing this same statement every time you go for a game. So it is normal. And I told him that at the age where I am, I also feel nervous when I go to stage. But it is that nervousness is only for that first minute or two. The moment the play starts, the moment you are in the court, you are all into it. And he said, yes. Sometimes when we have this imposter syndrome, we need to find a way to how to overcome it, because it's normal, as Sam mentioned, and based on my experiences, it's normal, it happens. But then we need to find a way how we overcome it. When those negative thoughts creep in, what we need to do to really take them away and then bring that confidence back. That is very, very important.
Yeah, I love that framing too. Sorry, if I could add one thing.
Yeah.
That I think, to the point about how you said when you approach stage or your son approaches his game, it's doing it anyway. And I think if we're in positions in our lives that we're never nervous, there might be some opportunity to push ourselves further. And if we're nervous and we do the thing anyway, fantastic. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that's extremely normal.
Correct. Yeah. Sometimes I think we feel that it's bad to feel nervousness. It's bad to feel low in confidence. But I think it's pretty normal. It's a human tendency. And on the similar thought, Sam, I've also observed that many people, when they are approached by their leaders that, hey, I would recommend you to go for a coaching, or I will recommend you to go and have a conversation with that mentor, the first thought that comes in their mind are, okay, why me? Am I doing anything bad? Am I in trouble? And the thought process, I have seen that if you are going for asking for help, it's a sign of a weakness. And in my opinion, in my world, I see it's a sign of a strength. Ask for help, not to become weak, but to become stronger. So on that note, I do see that situation where when leaders are being asked to coach, or they have been recommended to coach, they take a step back. So in your experience, how can a leader see this coaching as a more of a strategic investment on their leadership rather than feeling that sign of a weakness? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, well, the first thing, if someone is approached by an executive and says, I think you could really benefit from coaching, usually it means that that executive is looking to move that person into the next level or sees some type of potential in them. And so even at that level, I think it's a massive opportunity and not one to be taken lightly. And then I think too, with many of the top leaders in the world, you'll hear that they're surrounded by these councils or cabinets of members who can really help them expand their thinking and learn and stretch how they're approaching things. And I think coaching is very, very similar. So I think that one of the biggest misconceptions about coaching is that it's something that people seek when they're struggling. And that can be true. If someone is struggling with something, coaching can be a fantastic place to work through whatever that is. But especially for executive coaching, I think a lot of the clients come to it when things are going well and they're ready to reach a point where that next level is going to require some different type of thinking. And I think this is true too with a lot of the leaders moving their companies into the AI era. They're approaching a situation that no one has expertise in, and everyone is going to need some level of training. And I think, again, it's having a program and a space for which they can think through that next level and what that's going to look like. And so where I think people often feel like, oh no, like I'm taking a step back, someone asked me for coaching, is because a lot of us are taught a mental model that, especially early in our careers, when we're rewarded for that execution, like you're told to do something, you do it perfectly, And then as we become better and better leaders, we're awarded for judgment and strategy and decision making and some of these much more loose skills, like how to do it well, is less defined. And I think coaching gives leaders a space to examine how they're thinking about problems like that, how they're making decisions, and what patterns of their own making might be limiting their range. So I encourage all leaders to think of coaching more like having a strategic thinking partner during these moments of transition, especially when work is changing quickly, as opposed to fixing some flaw of theirs, because that's usually not the case.
Got it. I think that's very well said. And I did not look from that perspective that you've just brought it. When a leader is looking for you to get coach, it could also be that it is an upward movement in your career. It's not always to pinpoint your areas of improvement. So don't always look at as in from a negative perspective. Look at from a positive aspect.
Yes, absolutely.
And on that front, from being a coach, what are, from your perspective, some pros and cons to get an external coach? So from an external coaching, Sam, as there are two ways how a professional can get an external coach. One is recommended by their employer, or their employer already has an organization with whom they are working, and two is an individual who is very ambitious, who is really a go-getter, and they want to get a coach for themselves to really scale up and do better in their career. For people who are selecting a professional coach, what could be some pros and cons that you have observed, and what would be your recommendation before someone hires a coach?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of different types of coaches out there. And I would say one really, really important thing for anyone to look for when they're selecting a coach is if that person is a certified coach. So ICF certification is what you all should look for. Is global. That really shows that they know exactly what they're doing and can really help. So at a minimum, look for someone who's ICF certified. But I would say too, building even more on that, I would say look for someone who really has a style that resonates with you and where you're going. A lot of coaches are very specific to certain areas. To your point earlier about women in leadership, there are a number of coaches that cater exactly to that subdomain, or coaches who work exclusively in the technology space, or someone with a certain type of personality or energy that will really resonate. And I think it's common for anyone looking for a coach to interview a few different types of coaches, have some of those initial calls. Usually they're free, to see whose approach will match what you're looking for the most closely. And I think there's a lot that can be done just by picking someone who feels right and has results similar to what you might be looking for in your particular journey.
Wow. I think a great advice. Number one, look for the certification specifically from an accredited body, and two, connect with them upfront to know their style. And I think one of the things that I always look at is the chemistry match. Is the person matching your chemistry? Are you getting those vibes? Because we all get those vibes the moment we speak with someone. Either that person is for us, or no matter how great that person is, somehow things may not click. So it's very important before you do upfront investment, go for that introductory call. So thank you for giving that advice, Sam. Now, I know we are approaching the end of our segment. And before I move to a rapid fire round, Sam, if someone listening to us right now and who is at that juncture where they have no clue of what their career path looks like, and they are intrigued with your methods, with your thought process, what is the best way for them to work with you, and how they can reach to you to make sure that they get all the wisdom from you in a timely manner?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can find me on my website, workrewritten.com. And then I post very regularly on Substack. And that is a main place that I'm sharing my new methodologies and my lots of different new writing and ways to think about things, completely free. It's Substack by Work Rewritten is the name of that. And then Instagram by Work Rewritten. And I think, again, all of that is linked on my website. So, but workrewritten.com is where you can find anything about my coaching programs, my writing, my workshops. anything like that.
Very cool. And then we will include the website as well as the Substack work by Work Rewritten link so that it's easier for you to access those resources. Now, Sam, we will be moving to a rapid fire round. There are 5 questions will be coming your way, and our listeners will be looking forward to getting the responses instantly from you. Okay. All right. The first one. What's one leadership skill you wish someone had taught you earlier?
How to ask great questions.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
I am a morning person with some night owl tendencies.
Okay. What's one daily routine you never skip?
I have my morning coffee and look at the news every morning, catch up on everything first thing. It grounds me in my day.
Okay. Cool. Your go-to food that you can enjoy anytime.
This is very Californian of me, but tacos for sure. Anytime, any day, I'm in.
Okay. All right. And the final one, if your career were a Netflix series, what would be the title of season 1 be?
Oh, yeah. This is a tricky one. I would say unlinear paths would be something like that.
Nice. I've not heard of this title before, so I'm sure this will be very, very unique and SEO friendly, which can make it trending. Great. Well, thank you, Sam, for being here on the show and sharing your inputs, sharing your wisdom. Before I let you go, I would want to share my learnings from the show. So there have been many golden nuggets that were dropped by you. The first one, from my perspective, the way I saw is the title control access. So if you have a title, it can have a control access. If you're using your title only for as an authority, that's where something might not go right for you. So a title has to go along with your personality. So focus on knowing yourself, that adaptability, be adaptable, build that capability in you so that people do not just lead or people just not look up to you because of your title, but because of your capability and your nature, that adaptive nature. The big one was the trial map method that Sam uses. It's very unlike what traditional coaches have been using, giving you just one path of your career. Here, she prepares multiple career paths depending on what uncertainties might happen in the future based on how things have been disrupted. Every now and then, every 6 months, we are seeing a different line of careers, people moving into more entrepreneurial world or people moving their careers within the organization. Earlier, it was like 3 years. I think now it is close to 6 to 8 months. People are moving from one career to another. Lastly, the great advice given by Sam, if you are looking to hire a coach, a couple of things. Number one, make sure that the coach is ICF certified. ICF is the International Coaching Federation. It's an international body which certifies coaches after a series of assessment and an exam. So definitely make sure that your coach that you hire is one who is ICF certified. And two, go on to those discovery call, that initial call to really know their process, to really know whether they are in line with your expectation or not. With that said, thank you again, Sam, for being here. And what I feel that our episode today really hits home because the true confidence does not come from external validation. It does not come from a safer job. Because in today's environment, there is no such a job which is safe. Anything can happen anytime. But knowing how you handle those unsafe situations, how you handle those unique situations really matters. Knowing your capabilities, knowing what value system you have is really important. So if you are looking to support other leaders, come and join our LinkedIn group, Leadership Sounding Board. It's a group created by some volunteers, coaches who are helping individuals who are struggling to get direction. It's leaders who are looking to get a different perspective, not necessarily coaching, but different perspective. Thank you again. And this is Rahul Sharma. You're listening to the Client Confident Leader podcast. Thank you for listening to us. And thank you, Sam, once again for being on our show. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you. Same to you all.